Welcome to Bringing It to the Table with Wit and Flo.
The Black-Jewish friendship you didn't know you needed.
We talk about identity, faith, and justice.
And whatever else comes up when two educated, opinionated, badass women come to the table.
Okay, Flo.
You got something for me today?
Yes. Okay. I need you to know that I'm having a physical response. So we wanted to talk about allyship today, and this is completely inappropriate, but I want to show you this video that these two older white folks did. It's called Jesus is My N-Word.
That's the title?
Yep.
N-word?
N-word.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Without the hard R, though. They at least were trying to be. So today's show is about why you can't put together a video that says Jesus is my N-word.
Oh, did we need a show for that?
Clearly.
Okay. Glad.
Here we go.
Okay. Never seen this before.
Mortified. Mortified. Oh. Did it start? Oh.
Well, I wrote this song for the Christian youth. I want to teach kids the Christian truth. If you want to reach those kids on the street, then you got to do a rap to a hip-hop beat. So I gave my sermon an urban kick. My rhymes are fly, my beats are sick. My crew is big and it keeps getting bigger. That's 'cause Jesus Christ is my...
Do I need to keep watching?
Only if you want.
Do I need
He's
to?
a life changer, miracle arranger. Born to the virgin mom in a manger. Water to wine, he's a drink exchanger. And he died for your sins. I preach the word, that's my gig. And I rhyme better than Notorious Big. All the other MCs, I wish them well. But if you live in sin, you burn in hell.
Ah! Yeah, you do.
So, thank you, I think. I want to. How different would this have looked if I had brought this to her? So tell me why you brought this to the table today, Whitney.
Sorry.
When we said joy, justice, this was not the joy.
Listen. Whew, okay, so you and I, whew, geez, wait, hold on. Jesus, not that one, but the one that I serve, Jesus, mercy. Okay, I think I brought it to the table because you and I keep having this conversation about cultural You almost spit out your coffee. We keep having this conversation about the difference between cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation and how that all works together in terms of allyship. Let me tell you something. This is cultural appropriation at its worst.
Can we really, can we define appropriation and can we define allyship?
Yeah, so cultural appropriation is when you take an element of someone else's culture and you try to make it your own without respect to the origins, the sacredness, the traditions of that culture, right? It also can come in the form of mimicry and things like that. Well, I think these people were dead serious about this song. Somebody should have stopped them before they uploaded it on YouTube, because it's you heard him say, I want to reach the urban youth, and urban youth is usually code language for black folks. Let me tell you something. They better not come to my church and rap that song. Bet not. So that's cultural appropriation. I think about, women who take certain elements. It's like having a Pocahontas costume, completely inappropriate, right? We don't do that. It's like wearing blackface, right? We don't do that because that's cultural appropriation, right? However, allyship in my brain is a little bit more difficult to define because you cannot self-designate yourself as an ally. At least that's what I've been taught. You can say, I'm trying to be an ally, but I think that name actually has to be bestowed by the person to whom you're trying to be an ally for.
And that is also what I practice and what I believe.
Right.
So you aspire to allyship, but also let's be super clear. This word ally, this word allyship, these are super coded right now.
Absolutely.
They are super politically tagged, and so what I've said a lot lately in everything that's going on in the world and every place I love and call home is that my affiliations may have shifted.
Sure.
Though some of the language may shift, my values remain true. So let's take another minute. We're talking about allyship and being an ally, which means
excuse me, I think it means standing in solidarity with a group during times of celebration and challenge and tragedy. And I also think it means believing someone's lived experience without having to qualify it against your own. So as an ally, I wouldn't say to you, if you said I was a victim of anti-Semitism, I would not say to you, yeah, well, what about anti-Blackness? Right? Moreover, even though that video is hilarious and I watch it probably once a month, I think that true story, it should be my ringtone. But I think in an attempt for them to create a cross-cultural bridge, they actually ended up tearing down that bridge.
And one of the things we've talked about is that in a show, if you're an aspiring ally, if you're looking to build bridges, I have to assume one of the issues with this video is that they weren't in conversation with the community or the people that they were hoping to attract.
That's right. And so the disability rights community has this statement that says nothing about us without us. And it's the perfect statement because you cannot remove barriers and create opportunities and build relationships with people that you don't understand. There is no world where we want white people walking around saying the N-word. There's no world where we even want Jesus called the N-word by white people, right? And yet, this was, I think, an attempt to build a bridge. And so I'm thinking about one of our previous conversations when we talk about redemption and this concept of like, what happens if I did something with really good intentions as an ally, but I messed it up? So have you had a moment of, first of all, they ought to be shame. I hope they are. But have you had a moment of shame as an ally?
I as an aspiring ally,
sure.
I have made mistakes.
Okay.
And, it's so I once called someone in, not out. I didn't want to shame them. I didn't want to embarrass them. But I called them in and I said, listen,
what's the difference between, so that they know, what's the difference between calling in and calling out?
Calling out is you did something wrong. I need you to, you made a mistake and I'm calling you out on your mistake. I want you to know your mistake. I want you to know you did wrong. Calling in is saying, can I be in conversation with you because I want to be in dialogue. I want to understand and unpack what happened and move forward together.
Okay, thank you.
It's not always easy.
Right, right.
And so and that person, of course, good heart, embarrassed, wanted to do right. I said, look, if you're going to engage in conversations across difference and specifically across religion and across race, if you are engaging in that in an authentic way, you are going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
The question is, how do you respond?
Sure.
I once, in wanting to reach out and connect to a colleague of mine, used language that did not reflect the intent of what I said, and the impact was immediate. I saw on her face that my words were wrong.
Okay.
I saw on her face that the language I used gave the opposite of what I was trying to say. I carried that around for so long, and then I didn't know what to do to fix it because I understood that the act of an apology and the act of my coming to a woman of color as a white woman with tears was going to obligate her then to make me feel better about the offense that I had done. It was even apologizing could make the situation worse.
Sure.
Now, then at the end of the day, being a decent human and being a kind human. So I spoke with other friends.
Yep.
I asked for advice and guidance. Because I carried this with me for a long time, and again, I didn't want to put on her the obligation to make me feel better.
Sure.
And so I came to her and said, I want to apologize to you. The language I used was, and I also didn't want to wash away, or in any way try to qualify the harm I had caused.
Sure.
And didn't need her to acknowledge.
That's important, right? It's important that you don't say, I'm sure you feel, right? Because as you don't get to tell me how I feel, and I don't want you to guess how I feel.
Or to say, I didn't want to say to her, but this is why, or this is what I meant.
Why, let's take a moment there. Why did you feel that it was significant not to qualify what you meant in that moment as an ally?
My words caused harm.
Sure.
That harm my intent did not matter in that moment. It didn't matter that I'd meant something else. The words that came out caused her harm.
Right.
And so I also didn't want her position to have to accept the apology.
Interesting. Okay.
So, but I believed that, you get too caught up in thinking around the thing and all the ways, but then you don't do the nice, kind, human thing.
That's right. That's right.
So I went into that. It was very, very important to me to communicate that I understood that I had made a mistake,
right,
and that I was going to do my best not to behave that way again, not to use that language again,
okay,
and that I wanted to acknowledge the harm that I had caused that was lasting, and she did not need to respond or make me feel better.
Interesting.
In another situation, by the way, with a closer friend,
sure,
I said something insensitive.
Sure.
And I said to him, I made a mistake.
Yep.
I feel I would like to offer you an apology.
Yeah.
Would you like to hear it?
Sure.
And he said, no.
Yes.
And I said, okay. And I wanted to apologize.
Yes.
I felt terrible, but then that becomes about me,
right,
my redemption arc, and so.
And that's what performative allyship is, right? It's about maintaining your goodness, right? It's because I'm thinking about like people who go feed the homeless, right? But then take a selfie with the person that they gave the food to or the money to. It's like allyship. I think my bigger question is, can you be an ally? How do I want to ask this? Because I'm thinking about cancel culture, right? If I cancel you, are you still going to continue to be an ally? Like, because I'm thinking about, and we're going to go there because I'm a certified DEI practitioner. I'm thinking about in DEI where shame was the mechanism initially, right? There was a lot of shame involved with learning about DEI as a framework and as a mindset. And I think there were a lot of people who said, well, to hell with allyship because it's just too difficult. So what do you say to the people who have experienced shame or have made mistakes as allies? Like, do you keep on going or do you say, well, I tried? Like, what do you do?
My introduction to diversity, equity, inclusion work and frameworks
sure,
was begun through shame. And the practitioner that first introduced me
sure,
to the framework.
Yep.
So all the Jews in the room who were white Jews in the room,
right,
we all had to talk about, we all had to place ourselves who are we, what's our identity, what's our social location.
Sure.
And every Jewish person in the room said, I'm white, but I'm Jewish.
Sure.
And then the practitioner continued to go around the room and then came back to, said, okay, thank you everyone, but there's one group in this room that needs to be called out. Because there's one group in this room that qualified their identity or wasn't clear. And so I need anybody that said, I'm white, but, which was the Jews.
Right.
So are you Jewish or are you white or are you a person of color? Those are the two categories. And that was, it was public. It felt violent.
Sure.
It was so hard
sure,
to stay in conversation. It could have easily gone either way.
Yeah.
Was I going to commit to this path or was I going to go down another path? And I was able, through some conversations with my sister,
yeah,
and with others and with colleagues and friends in the room, to be committed and to continue that conversation. But at the end of the series, I had a conversation with someone. I said, listen, I've grown, I've changed, I've learned a lot through this week, and I feel terrible for some of the things I said at the beginning of the week. I had to go through this process. And that colleague said to me, well, I really appreciate it, and it's, and I'm glad you said something. By the way, anti-Semitism, it's not like Islamophobia. And my whole body came tumbling. And I said, actually, I didn't say to her. At that moment, the conversation ended. And I thought to myself, well, anti-Semitism and Islamophobia are very related.
Yeah, they're the isms.
They are. So anyway, so you asked me a question about cancel culture and when you stay in and when you go out.
Right.
And one of the other things I learned is that it's really, you build this muscle of
Sure.
knowing when you're in an educational moment and when you're at a wall.
Yeah. Moreover, allyship is a one-to-one thing. It's not an international or national or like phenomena. So I think allyship takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of relationships. And so one negative incident, my hope would be, wouldn't stop people from being allies. But also, I guess you have to be an ally to the whole community. Like, it gets tricky, right?
Well, that's interesting. If we're talking about Black Jewish allyship, are you telling me that's a one-to-one thing and it's about individual personal relationships and not community to community, not synagogue to church, not?
Yeah, I think it depends on that person's capacity, right? Because how do I want to say this? So there has been at least 2 incidences across my news feed of Black people being violent towards Jewish folk in New York, I think it is. And my brain immediately wanted to say to my entire community, y'all, we got to stop this. But then I stopped for a beat and I said, I don't know any of the people involved in this. And so for me to feel guilt or shame for my entire people doesn't make any sense, because I know more Black people doing well in terms of Black Jewish relations, Black Muslim relations, right? Like, I don't want to be accountable for the sins of the non-allies.
And I want to linger on that for a moment.
Sure.
You just said I know more Black people doing work in positive Black Jewish relations. I don't think I got every word right just now.
Fair, totally fair.
People have said to me when I go to other Jewish people, yeah, but do Black people even want to talk to Jewish people?
Yeah.
And so I want to be super clear. In my work and in my experience, there has been a rise in anti-Semitism this past year, 2 years.
Absolutely.
And the first people, the only people to call me immediately have been my Black colleagues and partners.
I want to talk about, because we talked about maybe your misstep as an ally. I want to talk about my misstep as an ally. My main misstep was that I assumed that Jewish people didn't need my help. Like, I know that the community can be insular and that, you have your own set of traditions and things like that. And I even now, I treat Judaism with kid gloves. Like, I don't want to fumble the ball. And so it prevents me, I think, from leaning in totality and completely, because I don't want to mess stuff up. I don't want to be canceled. I don't want people to think I'm anti-Semitic. I don't want my Christian community to think I'm turning my back on Christianity. So I'm careful about what I say. I feel like, and this is just my personal opinion, that the heightened awareness of what I say or do prevents me from actually being an authentic ally, because I'm trying not to mess stuff up.
I mean, look at me fumbling to say Black, right? Look at me.
Well, like me saying Jew, like you saw me hold my hands out, like I'm offering it to you, like I don't, right?
And then we get to a place where we're so concerned about fumbling we're frozen.
That's right, because I don't want the consequence of shame. I don't want to feel shame. Shame sucks. Like, I don't want to. And I have obsessive compulsive disorder, which means that I will ruminate on my mistake over and over and over again. And it's just easier for me to not even deal with a community that's different from mine. Because hell, I got enough problems dealing with the Black community. Forget dealing with any other community. And I want to be clear that the Jewish community is beautifully diverse. And so I'm not saying the Jewish community as a white folk. I'm saying the Jewish community as a culture that is different from mine. I got enough stuff going on.
And by the way, you just said the Black community.
Right.
I always say Black communities and Jewish communities.
Interesting.
And I'm always really, because I don't want to suggest that there is one Black community
that is fair.
When I'm speaking.
That's a good call in. I think when I say the Black community, I'm actually talking about the Black Christian community, and I'm saying it the way that I am saying it because we say the Black church, capital B, capital C, as an entity.
Can you share with me a moment that you experienced allyship, that someone reached out to that because I want to make sure we've talked about how you can screw it up, and we've talked about how hard it can be, and we've talked about how horribly wrong it can go.
Yeah.
But what a personal experience of when you experienced an act of allyship and what it was and how it impacted you and why it was important.
Yeah, there have been a couple incidences. And so the one that sticks out to me the most is there was a massacre that happened at a Family Dollar. The person went in and shot up and killed 12 black people. And I sent out this message to my team because I was in charge of belonging and inclusion, but I was also hurting, right? And I was the only black team member at the time on my team. So I was feeling very isolated. And I sent out like, here are things for you to do and here are things for you not to do, right? One was don't ask people to grieve. Don't call a group meeting and ask people to grieve publicly because you don't have permission to take my grief and to do with my grief what you want to. Mm-hmm. The second one was ask people how they want to be acknowledged in this moment. If I'm the only black person on staff and you send out a staff-wide announcement, like that puts a hyper focus on me, right? Don't ask me to speak at an event where somebody who looks like me was the person that was harmed, right? So I sent these things out, and my CEO of the organization, his name is Aaron Cattler, he sent out a message that said, and may we all follow the Torah that Whitney gave us today.
How did that make you feel?
One, I was like, isn't the Torah just the Bible? Like, like it took me a minute. I was like, did I send out? And I learned that he saw me as someone who could give wisdom in that moment. And he believed me. And that was the perfect opportunity for him to be the ally that I needed, because I also said I need to take the day off. And he said, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that was allyship on my terms. And he believed what I needed as my ally. He elevated my voice in that moment without requiring me to physically use my voice. And it was just a very wonderful moment.
I really want to focus on the importance and the positivity of, let's use a different word, human connection.
Yeah.
And how much seeing and acknowledging and believing the person in front of you makes all the difference.
Right. I think why allyship is the necessary word there is because allyship is normally bred from some form of challenge. So whereas human connection can happen, like my dad can talk to anybody. He can make a human connection anywhere. I've walked past him and he's holding like a stranger's baby and I'm like, yo, Dad, what are you doing? He's a human connector, right? He's a spirit to spirit human connector person. But allyship is standing with me or standing for me because you believe that my pain is valid, even if you don't understand it. Allyship does not require you to understand my pain. It requires you to believe it.
Is allyship only in moments of pain, or is it also in moments of joy?
I think it's in moments of joy as well, as long as it doesn't cross over into darn Jesus is my N-word, right? Like as long as it doesn't tie into cultural appropriation or even trying to be my spokesperson for me, right? The scariest thing is when someone decides as my ally, like they then become my spokesperson, because that's wrong too. But I do think it's in instances of joy, right? Like I hope I get to go to a bar and bat mitzvah, right? Like I hope I get to go to my first Jewish wedding and like celebrate, right? Moreover, you and I are going to go to an HBCU homecoming so that you, right? So that you can celebrate. But I think it's about the invitation and the willingness to be bigger. So Flo, what's the so what of today?
I was at, you're just reminding me I was at an HBCU in Atlanta.
What does HBCU mean for the people?
Historically Black College and University.
Great.
And there was a shooting that day.
Yeah.
And there was a vigil where we came together and I said, you know, I am aspiring to be an ally to this community. The Clark Atlanta University community, I partner with it, and I am here. What better act of allyship, aspiring allyship, than to stand and be there in this moment and hold pain? And I hope that, I believe that it was received with that intent. I think that allyship, standing with another community's pain, will maybe always be tricky and always be complicated.
Absolutely.
Rabbi Sharon Brous talks about showing up in the difficult moments. It's important to show up. Sometimes you'll say, is it Shiva? Is it tragedy? You may not know what to say, but the so what is not getting caught up in the difficulty, but getting caught up, be led, be guided by decency.
That's it.
Connection.
That's it.
Curiosity.
That's it.
And that what you can do by showing up for another person in another community is transformative for both of you.
That's right. That's right.
Did you have anything to add?
No, because now it's your turn. Take this talk, stir it up with your people, and see what rises. Whether you're at the Shabbat table, or the Sunday dinner table, or even the coffee table. Don't forget to bring it.
And remember, you always have a seat at our table.